Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Let's Talk About It show, where we will be talking about faith and government with Ricky Lopez and his new upcoming documentary. Tell us a little bit about that, Ricky.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me, John. I'm super excited about this upcoming documentary. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to clear up some waters about this whole God and government stuff. You see, a lot of people know how to complain about the government, but they don't know how to assert their rights and help make change. And if they're complaining to the wrong people who are not even in power. See, we have a system set up to that, where people can actually get together and vote and make a difference. But we'll get into that. Because most people don't even know what the three branches of government are. And they don't know how to separate what the Declaration of Independence is or what the Constitution is. And some people have a hard time trusting the people in power. And I think the people in power, sometimes that could be legit, but the system, I think the system was framed really well, but I just don't think people understand. So I'm hoping to clear up some of that stuff. Concerning faith, I think there's a lot of evidence of these people having God in mind when they founded this country. And I'm not saying that they were all right. Some of them had slaves and, they did some bad things, but there's some things to discuss. In this documentary, I hope it clears up some waters and, we're able to touch and see some relics. We go all the way to Philadelphia where the Constitution was signed. Just got back from Washington, took some great takes. So I'm excited just to educate some people, and it's great. We're going to watch it.
Very interesting, Ricky. And will there be any kind of subject about voting and government in your new documentary?
Man, not in the beginning of this documentary. I don't want people to turn off the channel, but I'm very excited to talk about that because I think people should understand the process. I don't want to inform people how to vote. I mean, that's what the framers did. They gave them the opportunity to vote. So I'll give my opinion at the end, and we'll discuss that towards the conclusion. But how about we just go ahead and watch it?
That sounds wonderful. Let's get to it.
All right.
Hey, what's up, guys? We are here in Washington, D.C., and we are going to take a drive-by journey to discuss some of the mystery of American heritage and if the Bible played an influential part in the birth of this great country. To be fair, let me ask it this way. If America wasn't founded on biblical principles, then did it at least help push the framers to a better way of life? Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States of America. It is said that the Masons built much of the structure here. One interesting thing is that some of the structure represents Egyptian and Greek ideology of ancient government history. From the pyramids in back of the dollar bill to the Greek-like pillars founded here in Washington, D.C., America has truly advanced from ancient government. However, we need to get to the bottom of how and why Egyptian ideology, Greek philosophy, and biblical scripture play a part in American heritage. Join me as I journey to bring a better perspective and help us to consider why God is mentioned in the Declaration of the United States and why the year of our Lord is written in the Constitution.
Hey guys, we're here. Washington, D.C., right in front of the Capitol. This is where Congress meets, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Some people wonder how things become law, and from an idea to a bill to right here, Congress. You see, once they discuss the matter, because voters decide to vote and voters decide to bring the idea to their congressman so the discussion could happen, things begin to happen. You see, growing up, I didn't trust in politics. I didn't trust in how the system operated, or maybe it was those people that were in charge, right? Well, I want to take you on a journey to discuss how democracy really works and how things are supposed to be done, how ideas turn into bills and bills become law. And it happens right here, Washington, D.C. But we're going to take you on a journey to discuss the system that the framers designed. P.S. This is not the president's house. This is not the White House. But it does look very presidential, right?
So we're starting off at the Capitol, and if you don't know, America is considered a democracy. That means we, the people, are supposed to be in charge. This is why voting is so important, so government doesn't overreach in its powers. There are three branches of government that most people don't know or understand. In a nutshell, they are to bring balance. This could be understood as checks and balances. If one oversteps in power or underperforms, then the other can help pick up the slack until balance is restored. How laws are made depends on these three branches. It can get a little bit confusing, but hang in there with me.
Hey guys, we're here right here in front of the White House, and we're going to talk about the executive branch and what happens here. Earlier, we were able to talk to you guys a little bit about what happens with Congress in front of the Capitol. We just walked into people exercising their freedom of speech, because that's what we get to do in this great country. We get to hear others out, and then we get to take those ideas and see if we can stir up the pot with our politicians and make change. And so over here, what happens is that once Congress, the House and the Senate, they get together and they decide that they're going to run with a bill. They send it over to the president, and the president can turn it into law from there, or the president can veto it. So this behind me is the White House. It's dark. I'm sorry. We're in Philadelphia today, but I wanted to get you this picture so you can see it. And we're going to share an example with you in this documentary of what these people were protesting and how they were using their civil right liberties. So this is it, guys. This is the White House. I'm sorry it's dark again, but this is where it happens. Okay, guys, let's check out this live example of freedom of speech and protest that was happening out on our visit while we were filming for this documentary. Perfect timing. All right, guys, so we're right here. We have some people protesting in front of the White House. We're going to share what their cause is. And again, this is what the founding framers allowed us to happen, freedom of speech. So we're going to see what they're exercising their freedom of speech of today, and let's see what the cause is. All right, so we're in front of the White House, and Jesse, if you can just show us all the protesting they were doing, and then we'll show the little bit of the chanting that they were shouting out. And go ahead and tell me a little bit of what's happening today.
Sure, we are Uyghur Americans. We gathered here to protest against CCP's brutal lockdown and ongoing Uyghur genocide.
Okay.
Uyghurs been in this genocide since it's been 6 years. Millions of Uyghurs are in concentration camps. They're in forced labor camps. They're facing sterilization. They're facing political indoctrination, sexual abuses. You can name it. Children are also sent to state-run orphanages and boarding schools. Basically, Uyghurs' identity is being destroyed in China. In our homeland, we call it as Turkestan. We were already protesting against CCP to stop the Uyghur genocide, but what has happened recently is Uyghurs been government-sanctioned lockdown. It's not just Uyghurs, all over China, but the Uyghurs are the most vulnerable ones. That their doors were sealed shut from outside, and it's been more than 100 days, and they were left alone. They were starving. There were no medical access. No, they couldn't go to the hospitals, so they were dealing with this. But on November 24, 2022, there was a big fire in the Uyghur neighborhood in the building. Many thousands of Uyghurs died, burned alive because their doors were shut. They couldn't escape. Fire truck couldn't come early. The blocks were also blocked.
Now, is this?
They died basically. This could have been prevented, but they died, and this started a big protest around the world.
Okay,
two
questions. Question number one: do you guys know people over there that this is happening to?
Yes, of course. Everyone in the diaspora have family members inside the concentration camps. We have family members.
Okay, so you got people communicating with you guys.
Yes. Later, honestly, I can communicate any of my parents, and any of my family, my relatives, because communication is shut down for most of us, especially if you're a human rights activist. We cannot communicate. If we communicate, they will get in trouble, and they will be taken to the camps. They will be taken to the prisons.
And what kind of country is that?
It's inside China. We call it East Turkestan. Chinese call it Xinjiang, which is a new territory. We were occupied in 1949. Before that, we were independent.
Okay, you said you guys were what kind of country? Communist country? Is that what you said earlier?
China is a communist country. Yes, and we are here asking and demanding freedom, democracy, independence, justice, all of the above.
And where are we at right now?
we're in front of the White House. This is like a center of the world's politics.
Yeah.
And we're also asking U.S. government to take tangible actions, such as sanction the people who are responsible for this fire, for this lockdown, for this genocide. We're asking government to do more, let more Uyghur refugees to come to U.S., for example. We're asking government to push UN to take more serious actions. Yeah.
Well, God be with you guys, and thank you for sharing your freedom of speech here. All right,
you.
take care.
Bye-bye.
Let's recap on the executive branch. In a nutshell, the voted-in President of the United States of America is the leader of the executive branch. The President can veto laws, pass bills into law, and enforce laws. Here at the White House is where his residence is. Okay, let's talk about the judicial branch. The judicial branch, in a nutshell, is made up of judges and courts that help review laws and policies to make sure that it is constitutional. The Constitution is the highest law of the land. All right, guys, for this next part, we're going to take a trip down to Philadelphia. Hang tight. All right, so we just pulled up in Philly. We're not in the greatest neighborhood, but check it out. We'll trying to get our way to Independence Hall. Although we pulled into a bad spot in Philadelphia, we also got to take a quick ride and see the wonderful city and the beautiful historicness of Philadelphia. Even though we were pressed on time, we still got to stop and enjoy a famous, amazing Philly cheesesteak sandwich right on the streets of Philadelphia. Philadelphia is an amazing place to visit and very industrial. It has a very important part in our economy.
Hey guys, we're here in Philadelphia. Right behind me is the Great Independence Hall, where the Constitution and Declaration was debated and signed. And the great thing behind me is there's so much history. It's original building, and the tour is great. We'll get into that in a second, but please know that Philadelphia once was the capital of the United States, or the colonies. We'll say it like that. And so one thing to keep in mind is that there are some unspoken heroes during that time, one being Thomas Paine, who doesn't get a lot of credit for helping and participating in the draft of the Declaration and in the I want to say in the push to go in that direction of independence. And so Thomas Paine wrote the book Common Sense, and George Washington used a lot of his rhetoric in order to push the soldiers and to spur them on for freedom. And they say that without the pen of Thomas Paine, there would be no sword of Washington. And I think that's really important to know about who that unspoken hero was. Another great thing about him was that he wanted to get rid of slavery, and guess what? Not everybody was on board with that. Although they wanted freedom, they wanted a hypocritical freedom at the time. So yeah, there's some great things that happened with our American heritage, but there are also some horrible things that happened. Of course, we hear stories about the natives living here at one point, the French and Indian War and things like that. And so those aren't great moments to remember, but today we're going to remember why this great nation was put together. So inside here, it is said that the Declaration of Independence is a rebel document. They were declaring to be rebels against Great Britain, and they used all their resources and came together and said, hey, we're not going to let these people bully us and take our money and do taxation without representation. And that is the birth of America. That is kind of what spurred everything on, is that they didn't want to get bullied, they didn't want to be taxed and pay someone else's debt and that sort of thing. And so they came together and they made the system that we know today in the United States of America. Congress, government, and all that great stuff. Come take this journey with us. We'll show you what's inside.
Guys, so this is it. It was debated and signed here. This is the room. Take a look.
Check out this quote right here. Americans had, wrote John Adams in 1776, a fair opportunity to form the wisest and happiest government that human wisdom can contrive. A fair opportunity. This was the mind of the framers, the great essentials. If men were angels, no government would be necessary. James Madison, 1788. All right, the Declaration of Independence. Remember this name, he doesn't get a lot of credit. We have it in our power to begin the world over again. All right. The Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union. Don't know how to pronounce it, but there it is. Read it and pronounce it your way, right? So, the love of power is so alluring that few have ever been able to resist its bewitching influence. That is human nature. You got to be careful with that, right? And the Constitution of the United States, establishing new government on wise and lasting principles, is the greatest work the mind of man can undertake. Powerful. Okay, now let's go visit the Liberty Bell across the way. So I just want to point out some of the great faith of early America. We're over here by the Liberty Bell. You have this great woman right here. You have Martin Luther King that's over here. And then again, 1776, 1915, equality was a big thing, but we weren't practicing it, although we wanted it. And then over here, I want to show you this. We got one of the natives over here representing the idea of freedom, right? And by the Liberty Bell. We're going to go talk about the scripture that was found on the Liberty Bell. And all the scriptures that's found with early America point to God, right? The laws of nature and of nature is God. We just got done visiting the where the Independence Hall was and where we wrote that out. And what's the difference between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution? We're going to talk about that. Stay tuned. All right, so check it out. This is the Liberty Bell. On it is scripture, Leviticus what? And of course, early America just valued God in so many ways.
25:10.
You want to take a picture right there? Oh, we got to wait.
Leviticus 25:10.
I'm sorry, can I get right here real quick? I just want to see the... Okay, folks, hang tight. We're going to go back to Washington, D.C. to check out the Lincoln Memorial and to see some of the inscriptions there. From there, we're going to go all the way to Arizona to take a look at history from a different perspective. And then we're going to share with you guys some of these awesome street interviews and what people have to say on the streets. All right, guys, so we're here. We're at the Lincoln Memorial. You see Lincoln seated on this great seat behind me. And he had great integrity according to what history tells us. But he also had a concern of us being on God's side or God being on our side. He had this great quote that I'll share right here on the caption below. And something interesting about Abraham Lincoln is that he stood to abolish slavery and he stood to make a better way of life for people that were dealing with oppression. And it's interesting because Abraham Lincoln, this place at the memorial, it's built very well, and he was assassinated. And so it's something crazy about this place because also Dr. Martin Luther King, the Baptist preacher, did his famous "I Have a Dream" speech right here. And we're just going to walk over here and we're going to see, because the Washington Monument is right here where Dr. Martin Luther King did his famous speech at the "I Have a Dream," and so you can see that right behind me, and it's just a beautiful reminder. Both of them were assassinated. Both of them had strong beliefs. Both of them had God language in their rhetoric, and both of them did amazing things. It's said that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and he just did great things. So we pay tribute to this, and this is a great place to visit while you're in Washington, D.C. Stop on by. You don't want to miss it. And then you could also see the architect of, it looks like Greek architect, but it's amazing. They put a lot of detail in this, and I'm sure this took a very long time to create and to build. It looks like it was made with a lot of love, but this is a great place. The Lincoln Memorial's right here, but we're not going to focus on that right now. What we're going to do is when you walk into the Lincoln Memorial, you go to the right hand side, you'll see a bunch of words, and this is kind of like messaging that I want you to consider. You see, if you look up here, talks about God's assistance, to ask a just God's assistance. And there's God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in. And so this is important rhetoric, because when you think about American heritage, you got to look at the evidence of what's happening around. And up here, like, I never noticed this before, but let's walk over here, Brother Jesse. Is that an angel on top? Okay, so there's an angel too on the left-hand side, and so you can see it right there. And of course, there's a massive Lincoln right here, and I just think that's just a beautiful, beautiful image.
Okay, guys, now it's time to get to Arizona.
This is a nice comfy couch here. I love it. All right. So we're continuing our documentary about God, government, and culture. And we're going to take a moment to discuss a little bit of culture. And right now I have Pastor Leo sitting with me, also a school teacher for many years. How long have you been in the school teaching business?
Almost 20 years. Yeah.
So this part is pretty important, because when I think about American culture, and when I tell people, hey, America is the greatest nation on earth, there's a lot of mixed feelings. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about the whole racial divide that we have in America today. But first, let me ask you a first question. Among your colleagues and among the many years that you've been in the school industry, have you seen the textbooks talk about American slavery, what happened here in the Americas?
Yes, I've seen things talking about slavery, maybe not all the details that we know that took place in slavery, but we know that slavery is mentioned as a part of some of the things that took place in American history. Yeah.
Okay. And from a spiritual side, or just a human perspective, do you think that slavery is a skin issue or a sin issue? And I'll pass the mic to you.
Most definitely, it's a sin issue. It's a sin issue. It's a heart issue. And you can legislate all the laws that you want to in regard to the racial tension, but until the issue of the heart is dealt with, then the other things aren't going to really fall in place.
That's really good. That's powerful. And I know that a lot of young people don't know how to digest this, especially with the media and how it's been pushed. And so talk to me a little bit about what you shared with me in the other room. You heard a quote, and you said some really powerful things that I thought was very mentoring.
Well, I think the issue of slavery and racial division is almost like an issue in a person's family where you have, I heard a preacher once address the issue of slavery and racial tension, and talking in almost like it was a issue like a person who's been abused, and the abuse will come up at a certain time, certain triggers happen, and then it just overflows, and it gets it's something you have to deal with over and over and over again. And I think the issue of slavery, our history, the racial tension, when things come up, it just oozes out, and people don't know how to deal with it, have dialogue with it, because it hasn't really been dealt with. It's been shoved more under the carpet. And until we really deal with these issues, there's self-loathing, I think, from white people thinking that they're always the problem, they're always bad. And it's like, no, not all white people are bad. Not all of any race is bad. But we have not dealt with the history of our past. And so we don't know how to carry on and move forward into the future. And so when I think of even addressing with younger African Americans or younger people of other races, you have to deal with, okay, this is the past. These are things that happen, and these are real things that took place. But then we have to look at how are we going to move forward in the lives of others, and dialogue and talk about these different issues that are going on in our nation today.
Amen. That's really powerful. And I want you to take a moment to think about some of the beautiful things and some of the beautiful opportunities that we have here in America today. And I think activists have paved the way to make a better America. And so I think there's some great things that people should also consider what they can do now in order to make the next generation a better generation.
Yeah, I think understanding one another, talking about some of the great things of all history of every American, the things that people contributed to make America great, from every racial background, every background, I think, and also too, as we move forward, being able to celebrate the different heritages that are here. I think that is important. And then coming together and working together, doing things together. You know, one of the things I love about the ministry that God's placed me in, not just at the school, but in the church, is that we have different backgrounds and celebrating the music, celebrating, you know, how we worship together and be able to be a part of a ministry like that. It warms my heart, because that's what America is. I mean, as believers, when we get to heaven, it's not going to just be one race of people. It's going to be people from all different nationalities and backgrounds, and are going to be there together. So we might as well get along right now, right?
I thought you were going to say one of the great things is that we have a diverse food option here in America.
There you go.
Yeah, I do love that, though. I love our diversity-ness that we do have. And I think we just have so much spice and so much flavor. And I wish we would bring all those together like ingredients to make our nation so impactful and powerful. And so, Pastor Leo, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate your perspective, and I hope this helps our younger folks. We're going to go take the rest of this documentary to Tucson, Arizona. We're going to see a Native American perspective, and yeah, thank you again. Hey guys, I'm so excited to continue this documentary on faith and government and American heritage, culture, whatever you want to take from this. But right now we are going to take some time and to talk to a historian, an artist, a person who has preserved culture, fine arts, here in the great state of Arizona, southern of the border. And this is one of his great sculptures right here. You can see the great work that he does here. I'm gonna let him talk a little bit about that, but getting back to our documentary, I kind of want you to tell me a little bit about what the Europeans brought to the land we know now as America, and then I want you to talk a little bit about the ugly that they brought. So we're going to do a little bit about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good.
Well, to start with, we're both Native Americans. We have a lot of indigenous bloodlines in us. The best thing that I can really acknowledge is Cristo Rey, our Christ, King and Savior, is probably the greatest thing they ever brought from Europe. Colonization and the English that came from Europe borrowed many aspects of Native American culture.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the ugly that the Europeans brought to the land. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but we need to talk about it.
Well, one of the uglies was slavery, but we also had slaves, to be fair, but not all the nations had slaves. Not all were enslaved forever, because like the Mexica Aztecs had, they can work the way to freedom. So there were different types of slavery in the Americas, but it wasn't, I believe it wasn't extended to the way it was in Europe.
Okay, fair enough.
And disease was the other big problem. Disease, when Native Americans were more naturalists, well understood, there weren't too many diseases in the Americas.
Okay. and obviously I wasn't there, so these are great perspectives that we can learn from history textbooks and historians. Now that we're here in the 21st century, how should we respect the land and move forward from negative history?
My take is that we have to respect the original people, and we have we have certain peoples that want to rule the world their way, but out of disrespecting others. But we have to respect Native Americans because this was their land. And how would you like it if I come over to your house and do whatever I want at your house? You wouldn't like it at all, right? So you have to take those things into consideration. If I go to your house, I build a tower there, I start putting oil fields all over, I start barbed wire fences, different types of buildings in your house, oil lines, pipes for oil lines. How would you like that? How would you feel like raping the land and killing off people because of the disease one carries?
Greediness. The Bible says that the eye is never satisfied. We're greedy people by nature, and I understood that not everybody in the original colonies were the best people. Not everybody today in our great America is not the greatest people. So tell me a little bit about your artwork. What's happening here?
This artwork represents the T.O. Nation, which was the A mountain they call today, but it was really called the Black-Rooted Mountain of the Tohono O'odham Nation. And this was the watchtower from here to all the way to the Catalinas, which the Spaniards called. But the real name of that, today they call it Mount Lemmon, but the real name was called the Frog Mountains, which was the border between the T.O. Nation and the Apaches.
Okay. All right. I don't know my history, so you're teaching me something today. I want people to understand that Native Americans had a wonderful role. They did well with the land, and I think some unfair things happened to Native Americans, and I'm glad that we now have a system where all nations can come and all nations can partake in the land. I think how we got here is a little bit ugly, but
Now that we know better, we can do better.
all right, so we're at another sculpture that my uncle Luis Mena did right here, and man, you can see the wonderful work that he's done in the neighborhood, and we're just in a simple neighborhood, and this is how he's helping to preserve culture. So tell me a little bit about the historicalness of this and what you did here.
This represents Barrio Viejo and the people in Barrio Viejo, and it represents the history, how the neighborhood was wiped out in the 60s and gentrified. And this represents our roots in our, today they call it Aztec, but it's really Mexica and Mayan, our Mayan roots and bloodlines. So these were our last rulers and who we derive from.
So when we talk about the Aztecs and we talk about the Mayans, now did they come this far to the land?
Some of the myths say they were as far as the four corners of the U.S. Some say as far as Canada. So you got to understand, a lot of these nations traded among each other. That's why they had turquoise, certain knowledges, technologies that you see in other nations that are very similar.
Yeah. And so when we're talking about the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the natives of the time, this warrior right here actually represents a government soldier, right? Their government, their rule, how they did government.
Right.
But so this would be a soldier, or
this would be an elected royal ruler, Cuauhtemoc, and they had their own government. They were rulers, and this is where our bloodline. These are our last rulers. Like today, we have presidents, we have ministers. So this is where we derive as a people, the Mexican people.
Yeah, so that's some really good history and stuff. Not saying that the way governments are ran are always correct, and especially the belief system, but this is a respectable part of history to remember, you know, the good, the bad, and ugly, and the roots. And so, you know, because my understanding of the Aztecs, man, they were vicious. They were warriors.
Yes, they were. They were almost like the
Aztec or Mayan?
This would be Aztec. So we come from the both bloodlines.
All right, guys, it's time to move on from some of the cultural, historic perspectives, and let's get back to our current democracy discussion. And let's go do some street interviews and see what the people have to think here today in the 20th century about our current democracy.
Do you know the three branches of government?
Legislative. I don't know the other two.
Okay. That's okay. Hey, what's up? This is a book author from Minutes with God. We're out here doing street interviews. So, you know what? I got a couple questions in my pocket, bro. Let me pull this out. And let me just ask a couple. Do you know the difference between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution?
I don't think I do. I wish I did, but I don't think I do.
Okay, so like the Declaration of Independence it was kind of like the moral part of why we built our country, and the Constitution was kind of like the law of the land. Like, this is how we're gonna do it. That's in a nutshell. So that makes sense a little bit?
Yeah, so from what I got, so the Constitution is more of like the guidelines almost.
Like the letter of the law, like this is how we're gonna do it, and the Declaration is more like the morality part, more like this is why we're gonna do it. That's why the Declaration has God in it and the Constitution doesn't. And so it's two different things. Is that educational?
Very.
Okay, cool. And then let's get another question. Do you know how laws are made?
Wouldn't it have to pass through the Senate or Congress?
Yeah. So you vote as a voter. You talk to your congressman. You get a then your congressman writes up a bill, and then it goes to the Congress, and the Congress has two parts, the Senate and the House, and then from there they make a decision whether it become law or not. Now that sounds easy, but the process is lengthy.
Yeah, I definitely know that much.
Do you know the difference between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution?
Actually, no, I don't. I'm not gonna lie.
Do you know the difference between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution?
I have no idea. Yep, honestly. Yeah.
All right. Do you know the three branches of government?
The judicial, legislative, and something else. Yeah.
That's 2 out of 3.
Like-
do you know why the country was founded?
They needed somewhere to stay.
Hey, that's why they didn't have hotels, huh? Or at least good ones.
That's the best answer I got. Yeah. They just fell on some. Right? Like Christopher Columbus said. Right?
The story of our lives, right?
That's what they taught me in school. So yeah.
All right. So hey, do you think that they were religious people or a Christian people?
No.
No. Okay.
They're greedy people.
Greedy people.
Yeah.
Okay. What if I told you that that Thomas Jefferson, one of the main guys, and George Washington went to a church called Christ Church in Philadelphia?
Yeah. I mean, I was Jehovah's Witness for a little bit. Yeah. So everybody, you know, I don't know how deep they were into it.
Yeah.
You know, some people could go to church and not really be about that life.
That's true. That's a great point. So I'm gonna read.
Right now, man, you see all the churches and all the scandals.
Yeah.
You know, so
How much grace should you give a hypocrite?
it all depends. I think it varies. You know, but I don't know.
Oh yes.
It's
Oh.
not show or anything, is it?
Oh yeah. No. We're not that cool. We're not that cool at all. Yeah. All right, tell me when you're ready. All right, hey, this is a book author ministerial guide, attitude, reflection, character. We're out doing street interviews, and we're gonna see what the common person knows. Right? Are you common?
No.
No, okay, maybe we're not gonna see what the common person knows. All right. So, all right. Do you know the 3 branches of government?
What do we got? Judicial, executive. The other one. Yeah. Home's the third one. Oh, legislative. There we go.
All right, we got help from the home base out here.
Hey, phone a friend.
All right, and then do you know what happens in? How do you make something into law? Do you know how that works?
Well, starting from where? Like,
An idea.
so you would probably go get a bunch of the signatures, like on the local level or the national level.
Well, let's talk local. How do you make something into law from the local level?
I'd probably reach out to either my local legislator, my congressman, or maybe a senator.
Okay.
Talk to them, go out, petition to get signatures, and get it on a ballot at the local level. At the national level, they do what they want. They don't talk to us little people.
Okay. All right. So, anyways, do you know the 3 branches of government?
The executive, legislative, and judicial.
How do you know that? Law school. She in law school. Very good.
Yeah.
What each branch does?
Yeah. What does each branch do?
The executive, well, the judicial branch interprets the laws. The executive branch is like the White House and the president, and then the legislative branch makes policy.
So, if someone wants to turn something into law, what do they need to do?
That I really don't know. I don't do anything related to that.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so a couple of questions. Do you think America was founded on religion, for the most part, a little bit, from a scale from 1 through 10?
Yeah, I would say so, about 7 or 8. I mean, we say God and things like the Pledge of Allegiance, etc.
Is there another document or a document actually where we say God in?
The Constitution, right?
Declaration. The laws of nature and of nature's God. I don't know another country that actually uses God in like some kind of founding paperwork or premise. Do you?
No.
All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of quotes, and you're going to guess who wrote it. Okay. All right. This is just for fun. All right. All right. For fun, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Was that Cardi B, Michael Jackson, Thomas Paine, or Thomas Jefferson, or John Adams?
I'm just going to say Thomas Jefferson. I have no idea.
Okay, cool. All right. It is actually definitely not Cardi B, right? It is John Adams.
Okay.
All right. I want to ask you, do you know what the 3 branches are of government?
Legislatory, executive,
And judicial.
and judicial. Yes. Judicial. Yes.
He got peer support over here on the side.
You know I'm Canadian, right?
Oh, you're doing better than some. All right. So why did America start?
If I know.
Religious freedom.
Religious freedom. Thank you.
It wasn't for beer and chips.
That's a good enough reason.
Okay. Turkey and stuffing, maybe? I don't know, right? All right. Do you know what do you know what religion the founding fathers were, the framers, for the most part?
No. Masons. I don't know. Masons.
Most people think Masons.
Masons had a lot of.
Quakers. I did some research. Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple of quotes, and you're gonna tell me which one you think it is. All right. So this quote says this: "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." That either Washington, Adams, or Thomas Paine.
Adams.
Oh, it's pretty good. John Adams. All right. Let's give you another one.
Paying attention that day.
Let's do another one. All right. The only means of establishing and perpetrating our republican forms of government is the universal education of our youth in the principles of Christianity by means of the Bible. Who do you think that might be?
No idea.
Okay. So multiple choice. Let me think. Michael Jackson, Cardi B, or Benjamin Rush?
I'll go with Rush.
This guy's good. Who would have known? And I think that's perpetrating, right?
I
can't even. I'm like I write like the founding framers. I don't understand what I wrote.
You're a Mason too?
No, I'm not at all. All right, so let's do this next one. Religion and morality are essential pillars of civil society. Who do you think that was?
No idea.
Jefferson or Washington or Adams?
I just got to go with Jefferson on that one.
Actually, that's quoted by George Washington. All right, and then we'll do the last one for you. My concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right.
I don't know. I've heard of it.
You heard of it?
You
heard of it? You saw it on a T-shirt?
Give me the multiple choice. I might get it right.
All right, Washington, Adams, Lincoln, or Payne?
I got to go with Lincoln on that one.
Yeah, Lincoln did. All right, so first question. Do you know the three branches of government?
Legislative.
Judicial and executive.
Yeah. Why'd you look at him?
Because I thought we were going to go back and forth, but then he listed two.
All right. And do you know how an idea turns into law? You gonna look back at him?
No. I just don't know the answer.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it gets proposed on the floor of the House, and then, or the Senate, and then it has to get passed in the House or the Senate, and then it gets moved on to the most of the time the Senate's last, and then it gets turned into a bill, and then the president has the authority to pass it or veto it, and then it goes back if he vetoes it, and they can override the veto.
Yeah. So right here, the executive branch. Yeah. Right here, the president. And by the way, we're right here in front of the White House, and I know it's pretty dark. All right, so here's the next part of this interview. We're gonna ask we're gonna say a couple of quotes, and you guys are gonna guess who they come from. All right. Oh, by the way, first of all, because these quotes are kind of religious, do you guys think that America was founded on religion for the most part, or what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it was founded mostly upon Judeo-Christian values, but it was founded with the intent of separation of church and state to protect the state and also to protect the church.
Yeah. Do you know another document out there that has similar in the Declaration? It has the word God. Why do you think they did that? I don't know any other country where they have a document that like represents God.
Well, I think the Declaration of Independence was the first of its kind that manifested itself in the way that it did. So that, they might have pulled slightly from other documentation, but I think the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were the first of their kind, and the French followed us. So I don't think that any other democracy or democratic republic had really referenced God in their legal documentation before, but I'm open to being wrong.
Okay, hey, we got Google nowadays.
Yeah, we're in a Google-enabled world, man. We're in a Google-enabled world. I'll have to look it up after, so I don't seem like
Sounds good. All right, so let's get to these quotes. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Who do you think that was? Was that Washington, Adams, Payne, or Lincoln? What would you guess?
I'd guess Washington. Actually, no. Let me. I think it was probably John Adams.
Dude, you're right. John Adams. All right. All right, this is a tough one. The Bible is the rock on which our republic rests. Michael Jackson, Cardi B, Washington, John Adams, or Andrew Jackson?
Cardi B.
Founding framer of something.
Absolutely.
WAP, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
WAP, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't sound like something Andrew Jackson would say.
Or Cardi B, for the facts of that matter.
Or Cardi B. She may need to find some Jesus. I don't know.
No. Who are the other options?
It was John Adams in Washington. I would say.
And Andrew Jackson.
And Andrew Jackson. Yeah.
I'm just throwing some out there.
I'll let you answer this one. I answered
Payne.
the last one.
Payne?
Yeah.
It was actually Andrew Jackson. Very good. All right, and then we'll go to the last one. All right, my concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right. Washington, Lincoln, Payne, Adams.
Well, they haven't had Washington yet. Do you want to guess Washington?
All right. But that's like reverse psychology. Maybe it is Adams because.
Maybe.
What's your gut? What's your gut going with?
He's hungry. You can't ask him gut questions right now.
Washington.
Payne.
It's Abraham Lincoln.
Oh.
Yeah. So again, back to the question. Do you guys think they had God in mind?
I mean, obviously, yes. Yeah.
All right. Just based off of the rhetoric?
Well, based off the rhetoric and, historically part of the reason that folks came to America to begin with was to escape the oppression of the Catholic Church in England, the Church of England. So they came here to establish their own freedom of religion. So I think they always had God in mind, yeah.
Do you trust the government today in today's generation?
No.
Okay. Do you have a good example why?
Yeah, there's just too much funny stuff that goes on.
Okay. Yeah. So would it be the people in power or the structure of the system?
The structure of the system and the people in power.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, some people think that. Do you think the framers, the founding fathers, were religious people?
I like to believe so.
Yeah. There's two that I can think of on top of my head that went to Christ Church in Philadelphia, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. And do you think that they had God in mind when they built the America?
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah. They sure wrote a lot about God. Of course, a lot of other things. Yeah. But a lot of people say that a lot of them were hypocrites.
I think it all depends on your perspective.
Yeah. Say they were hypocrites. How much grace should they have?
I don't really think we can judge other people on that, so I really don't honestly have an answer for that.
Yeah. Do you know the three branches of government?
I haven't been in school for a minute, so
good. No, it's all good. Yeah.
I think there's one called the legislative branch, and that's all I can remember, bro. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Do you know why the country was founded?
On greatness.
You know why though?
Land.
Land, in part.
Money.
In part. Yeah. Do you think about liberties or religious freedom?
Oh yeah, justice for all. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And do you know why they added God into the Declaration of Independence?
Some people think it's to control the environment, control the communities.
Some people think that.
Others believe that it was a way of believing in God, I guess.
What if I told you that Thomas Jefferson and George Washington went to a church called Christ Church in Philadelphia? Would that change your perspective?
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. They will do a street quiz with you, and you just tell me what you know, okay? All right. Do you know the difference between the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence?
Yeah, I do. The Declaration of Independence was drafted for... the Constitution is your Bill of Rights, basically, isn't it? And then the Declaration was... I used to know this, too. It was done by our forefathers for... What is it? I don't remember, to be honest with you, man.
Okay. It's all good. All right. So one deals with one deals with morals and the reason to start an independent country type of thing and to colonize and all that, and that was a Declaration of Independence. The other one was like the laws, like this is how we're going to run the country. The first one was the morality push. All right, do you know the three branches of government?
The legislation, judicial, and judicial. I don't know the executive branch. The third one.
That's all good. Do you know why America was founded?
The taxation by representation.
Okay. That's good.
It's Great Britain back in 1776.
Okay, cool. Do you think that the founding fathers had God in mind when they created the country?
To be honest with you, I don't know what they had in mind. I think they had the notion, yeah. Back then it was a pretty sound thing for the most part. Until, Pilgrims came over this way, where they started with a P. Can't remember the religious sect it was, but...
Do you know that they went to church in Philadelphia called Christ Church? George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Matter of fact, Thomas Jefferson, he's buried over there at a church. Isn't that interesting that they went to church?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Kind of, does it say anything about them?
They were religious. They had faith in God. Thought that if nothing else, the Bible would have been a good moral ground to start something from, at the very least.
Okay. Yeah, when I tell people that they went to church, a good chunk of them, I wonder if it changes their perspective. But I'll tell you what, they say in prison, closed mouths don't get fed. And I think our people are hurting ourselves because we're closing our mouth about the issue, or we're opening it to the wrong people. We're opening it to people that don't have power. We're opening it to people that can't do nothing about it. We got to get into position in order to make the right things happen.
So Ricky, what's your conclusion after putting this documentary together?
Well, I appreciate everybody who participated, from the street interviews until the person holding the camera. I hope it's very informative. I think we have a great system. I think we got to be careful who we put in power. I think that's really the conclusion, and I think people need to know what their rights are and how to assert their rights. The Bible says that God's people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And I think we need to start with the educational, the fundamentals, the basics, and be able to put what we've learned in practice. And I understand that it takes a long time for a bill to pass into a law. And I understand that people get impatient and they lose trust in the government. But we got to be able to partner with good people in order to represent our values, and in order for our president to represent our country well in all aspects of what we stand for, the freedom, the liberty, and all that good stuff. And so, I hope people took a good thought away from this.
Well, I'll definitely keep this documentary in my video library, and I hope those out there that have watched it do the same as I do.
Amen. All right.
All righty. You're very welcome, Ricky.
Now, allow me to say one more thing just before you guys turn this off. If you're a Christian and you're on the fence about God and government, or even bringing up the conversation anywhere or to anyone, and you just want to keep it private, let me just remind you that King David was a king and a very political leader. Daniel was a cupbearer in the king's palace. Joseph had a mighty position in Egypt. And the list goes on and on. Esther, she had an influence, and it doesn't matter your status, it matters your influence, and your involvement is very important to how things are ran to help stop oppression. And remember, Isaiah 1:17 reminds us that we are to correct oppression. God bless you. Thank you for jumping on. Until next time.